Over the last 3 weeks of the NAL, two teams have been circling around and towards each other. It has, of course, been the behemoths of Darkzero and Shopify Rebellion. Welcome back, everybody. Jonas Willinger here with Foxay and Laxing for a match, Laxing, that we have been waiting for since the stage began.
It's the Battle of the Titans. I mean, both these teams have just been dominant in their own right, topping the charts. The only thing that set them apart was just an overtime win. But outside of that, they both have shown their resilience. They both have shown how strong they are. And again, this is going to be Titan versus Titan.
I mean, you just look at the stats. I mean, DZ first in all respect, and then Shopify Rebellion just on their toes. I mean, both teams, regardless, they have just been performing so well. Obviously, Shopify had a little bit of hiccup going to overtime first game, but that's natural. And now both teams firing on all cylinders. They've been so strong, so consistent. One of them has to lose today.
Well, in their win over Cloud9 yesterday, Rexon, for Shopify Rebellion, he had a few choice words about this upcoming matchup with Darkzero.
Yeah, no, of course, it's like a one-sided rivalry. We always beat DZ. I'm planning on doing that tomorrow, and then we'll play him again in the playoffs, and it'll be a close game. But I'm playing, so I don't have to see that guy make a stupid tweet. That's what I'm really playing for, and I mean, it'll be a really good game. It'll be a really good game.
Well, Rexon said it. Historically, this is a battle that Shopify Rebellion have won. 7-2 in series since 2023. That is a very one-sided affair.
No, it's definitely one-sided. But again, this is a completely brand new Darkzero. This is a far more aggressive paced team. So I'm expecting, I mean, even when you look at the numbers, they're fairly close in that round count. But again, this is a completely different Darkzero where we've talked about they've improved a ton. Where on the other side for SR, we've talked about their consistency, which when both those clash, it's a question of who comes out on top.
Right, Darkzero has always been a slow team. Sonics has always been a very fast-paced and aggressive team than going to Shopify Rebellion. So now, Darkzero is a lot better prepared.
Well, one of these guys that has been lights out for Darkzero, and there's so many people that we could talk about. Spirits was the man of the hour yesterday, putting up some insane numbers and making, well, Cruelty look a little silly.
I mean, since Darkzero making this change with getting Spirits and also Citizens, but Spirits has been the most impactful player, and he was so overlooked, but since previously joining Darkzero, the meta obviously has transitioned into a place where he's been able to thrive, and he is exactly an X-Factor player that Darkzero desperately needed because they've always been slow. They've never really had that spearhead entry, that player that can play all these wacky ops, that can constantly pull rounds out of thin air, essentially, from being so good. And these are all the operators that he's been able to play so far for Darkzero. And it's not just the fact that he can play these operators, but he's bringing out so much creativity. I mean, everybody saw the Cav shotgun yesterday. We've seen him play Jaeger shotgun. We've seen him play Ying shotgun. He plays so many different operators in different ways that nobody has ever done before. A trendsetter, if you will, and to the point that it's not just him being able to do that. Obviously, he has amazing success and he has the confidence to do it, but it's the fact that the team can set up around him and make him thrive, being able to try these creative strats, essentially, so that they don't look down. It's not washed away. Any idea is a solution, is a potential round win for Darkzero.
I mean, you have so much in your arsenal when you have a player like Spirits who can flex that many different operators, play that many different roles. It just, like I said, you have so much left in the tank. You have so much on paper in the books for strats to be able to play around, win. And like I said, you have a player like Spirits that is so versatile on those roles.
Well, as you mentioned, we've been gassing up DZ all stage long, but if it wasn't for that single overtime, it was an overtime win, that single overtime performance from Shopify Rebellion, they would have been at the top of these standings as well.
I mean, there's nothing that you can't say about Darkzero that you can't already be saying about SR. I mean, this is a team that has shown nothing but dominance. They have ferocity. They have tenacity. They are resilient. They are one of the best teams in the league as of right now. And what we've seen is creativity in their play. They are quick to adapt. For me, in terms of the comparison of aggressiveness, I would say SR does go a little higher in terms of a more passive-aggressive play style. They know when to get aggressive. They know when to play passive. And again, for me, this is really going to come down to who is really better, consistency or improvement over the stage, and I cannot wait to dive into it.
And we talked about the statistical dominance that both of these teams have had, something that we hit on in our pre-show yesterday. 7 out of 10 players in the top 10 are from these two teams. They can be compared almost directly head-to-head, one-to-one, some of these players on DZ and some of these players on Shopify.
I love that you talk about it, because we got to talk about the top 4 players, and let's talk about the top 2 in EPS. Ambi versus Pamba. They are practically playing the exact same role, exact same operators, and you see the stats. They are neck and neck with one another. This is 1 and 2, and it makes perfect sense. You can't paint a better picture for these players, and these are 2 players, if you're coming into this game, watching it now, these are 2 players that are very key pieces to both Darkzero and Shopify's success.
Yeah, they've been so perfect on the entry, and when it comes to Siege, being the entry is that important, but also being that backline, the supports that you're always looking towards, that's just as important. And obviously, you can't go without mentioning Citizen and Rexen for both teams. They consistently show up for each of their respective teams. Citizen just flexing to every single role possible, making DZ gel, whereas Rexen essentially being that hard support on Shopify, but always putting up amazing numbers, always being that stat gatherer and getting the job done when it matters most.
And that's really the interesting part about, comparison of Rexen and Citizen is really in your face. He's that player using that Deimos, getting in your face. Whereas again, Rexen, you talk about playing that support. He's playing those long angles with those DMRs, with Twitch. And then they switch to the shotgun. They switch to defense. They play that more supportive style role. They lock down those sites. You have these 2 players, 3 and 4 in EPS. I mean, both these teams, this is the reason why it's so hype and why we're so excited, why I'm so excited to see them brawl it out and really see who comes out on top.
Yeah, I know we're not doing a great job of keeping that excitement contained because we are feeling so good about this one. And now we just have to figure out where this brawl is going to go. So many different places. We've seen both of these teams excel across every map they've played. Where are we going now, Foxy?
I mean, it's such a disservice that we're not going to see a best of 3 here, but obviously just a little bit of a taste at what we could see in playoffs. Both teams have been so good. I mean, when it comes to Shopify Rebellion, I'd imagine they try to take DZ to a more aggressive-sided map. Lair, very untested, unproven map, but both teams have been so comfortable on it. I'd say Shopify Rebellion
I would say they look better.
They've definitely looked better because you have such an aggressive lineup behind Canadian. It's a map where your IGL can sit in the site, set it up, and position every single attacker or defender wherever they need to go, because you need to rely on time management, taking a lot of position very quickly, and Shopify Rebellion does a great job at that. But for Darkzero, the shields, the Ying, spirits, the X Factor.
Well, you said they looked better on it. Shopify did on Lair. The scoreline was similar. What jumped out to you?
Well, the biggest thing to me is Shopify really, and when we talked to Rexen after the game, they let Cruelty get back into it. It really came off of a big 1v3 from Ivan that then allowed that snowball and that trickling effect to be able to bring it back. But it realistically should have been a 7-1 from Shopify. So going into this game, when I'm looking at the bans, I am curious if Troy is looking at that X Factor, if talking about spirits, of possibly removing the Ying, getting rid of the Blitz, because we don't see him too much on Monte. We see a lot of that pressure coming off of the Blitz. So I am genuinely curious to see what the ban phase is going to look like coming outside of Shopify.
I mean, I love the diversity in Darkzero's play, especially when they're attacking around the missile stairs. I mean, Spirits is going to get there somewhere, whether it's the Ying, the BB, the Blitz. We even saw him bring Glaz a time or two and be able to smoke his way to get a pick. So he's such a player that you have to worry about. But in the last time that Darkzero played Lair, it was actually Citizens from the back end that had no focus on him because everyone was so worried about Spirit. So if you're Shopify and now you can have 2 polar opposite VODs, one game, Spirits was the main reason DZ won. And then the next one, because the team was so focused on Spirits, you had to worry about Citizens in the back. If you're Shopify, how do you directly counter Darkzero? You just have to be able to get the picks when they come in, shut Spirits down before he gets into the door, or else you're going to have to worry about him, which allows the backline to open up.
Well, I'm stoked to get into this one so quickly. Let's get predictions. The prediction to end all predictions.
My prediction
Laxing first.
I'm like Twitch chat. Let's get this game underway, Shopify.
DZ, NA Furia.
All right, it's as clean as that. NA Furia. The 2 undefeated teams go toe-to-toe. We'll see it. The match of the stage starts now.
Everything on paper shows us that these 2 teams will dominate both the NA League and also in the playoffs. But Jesse, they have to get through each other first. One of these teams will lose today. It's a 7-0 record for Darkzero, where they sit literally perfect. Shopify Rebellion went to overtime against Envy in week number 2, and what would actually have been day number 2, technically, and since then have gone back to their winning ways. Do you expect fireworks? Do you expect theatrics? And most importantly, do you expect overtime?
I mean, you have to, Parker. This is the one we've all been waiting for. The social predictions back that up, 54-46. The best teams in North America head-to-head here, Playday 8 in groups. A preview of a likely grand finals in playoffs, although we'll see how things do turn out. It was almost a full year ago now when Darkzero dropped Canadian off of their roster. Canadian said that he was disappointed in how most of the team handled that situation. Nafe then responded saying that Canadian had crossed a line. Regardless of how that ended up going down, we know that there is no love lost between these two teams, and now they sit 1 and 2, the best and second best teams in North America. Darkzero have been looking better than ever with how good they've looked with this kind of half British, half North American squad that they've assembled. Spirits and Citizens sliding in really well to this DZ team, and Shopify Rebellion looking really good too, with of course Surf, Spoit, Canadian, everybody firing on all cylinders.
The very aerodynamic Canadian who has decided to buzz all of his hair off. And I actually went out with him last week. It was my birthday, and he's, as you can see in the Shopify office, he's in Toronto. So is Spoit. So we linked up. We went out for some lemonade, of course. And
Yum.
he told me that apparently the hair change is permanent. So we will be looking at aerodynamic Canadian moving forward. He's built for speed, but there's the rest of his team. One thing I will say, with Canadian as IGL, most of his teams are not known for their speed in the server on attack. Shopify has flipped that on its head. Darkzero were the team that were always a little bit more lethargic, but they've also shown that they can be significantly quicker with this new lineup, and that could be because Nafe as IGL is getting the most out of his players, or maybe they're just more familiar and more comfortable with their roles. Operator bans are coming in, our first wave before bans at the end of round 3, and you're laughing in the background.
NJR, the menace on Tachanka has been silenced now, as that is not gonna, I guess it's a shot at a DZ ban. Okay, I don't even know where this is coming from. Historically, NJR has been the guy that has repped this operator by far the most. Shopify won't have it available to them in this first half of the game. Interesting bans coming through. I know Laxing was excited to see what the bans might be. This is a strong map for Tachanka. The top floor, he can be really effective, so it makes sense to take it out, but it's certainly a curveball. They'll take it out alongside the Clash, which is one of the most commonly banned ops for attackers on Lair. For Shopify Rebellion, Laxing wanted to know which of Spirit's operators would get banned out. How about none of them? As it looks like they'll take away the Deimos, which is traditionally going to be played by Pambazoo, and then the Buck as well, which has been seen by a couple of players. I don't know who exactly has been playing it the most on this team. I know Nate has played it a little bit. Pamba plays it here and there as well, so most likely not a specific player being targeted with that one. Just want to be able to survive both above and below when they're near the bomb site.
The biggest map in the map pool, Lair, sits pretty comfortably towards the top at this moment of play. But I mean, for the most part, everybody here in North America are playing Consulate and Cafe. They are far and away the two most played maps. Lair is third, but just some brief numbers for you, by the way. The most played map is Cafe Dostoevsky. It's been played for a total of 90 rounds. The least played map is Skyscraper. It's been played 28 rounds. Lair is in third at 48, which means that Lair has 20 more rounds than Skyscraper in dead last. Yet, get this, 42 fewer rounds than Cafe in first place. So Lair is closer to the least played map than the most played map. That is bonkers. It shows that teams just keep going to Consulate and Cafe over and over and over again.
Well, here on Lair, we're going to get a strong defense from Shopify to start things off. You've got Spoit holding down operations, playing on that Azami will kind of be the first line of defense. A lot of DZ are set up to push more towards Skybridge, over towards Green as well. So they might not actually care about where Spoit's positions. That's why we see Spirits making so much space up here on the Blackbeard. Often it's the smoke that plays in this position. That does seem to be where Canadian is at, hoping to stall out this Blackbeard once he sees it, but instead he's just the opening death.
Not exactly what you want from Canadian. He sits towards the bottom of the standings, the lowest rated player on Shopify Rebellion. But again, we even talked about this in the previous round. He's not somebody who's going to be tasked with getting a lot of kills or frankly a high rating at this point. But DZ, knowing this team so well, they're making their presence felt, and up Spoit will come. Rexon down but not out as Spoit gets the very first kill for Shopify Rebellion. Ambi and Pambazoo still with pulses on the, or Ambi and Spoit rather, still with pulses on their side of things as Pambazoo opens up the wall. Rexon bleeding out. He'll need to be retrieved at some point. Ambi down for the count. It's all on the shoulders of Spoit. He finds kill number 2. The newest player to Shopify Rebellion will have to clutch out. Adrenal Surge still in pocket for Citizen. He'll be available in just a moment. Rexon seems unretrievable as he's being watched by what appears to be the silhouette of Pambazoo, but hard to tell. There's utility on the side of Shopify Rebellion, and they're going to try to gain valuable intel as Spoit sees where one of the players happens to be. 2 more remain. Rexon will finally bite the dust. And now it's Spoit to try and stab them in the back. He loses the duel, and DZ didn't break much of a sweat there at all. They take round number 1.
Spoit got an ace on that very bomb site back at the 6th Invitational, so he knows what it takes in those positions, and he had him lined up at the end, but it was too much to handle. Fast reaction coming out from Darkzero, and I want to bring that round all the way back to that first engagement we saw coming out from Spirits. Really smart with the Blackbeard. Heard that Canadian was chucking the Toxic Babe, so he knew he could just swing out, pull down the shield, take down Canadian for the opening pick, get that space that Darkzero were really looking for to open up that round, and Spoit did a great job taking it back. This is the kill I was talking about for Spirits. We'll get to see the kill from Spoit as well, I'm sure, coming back to answer, rushing down Spirits, getting in his face, because you've got melee priority now as a defender. But this kind of comes back to the banning decision from Shopify. They know how good Spirits is on these aggressive shields. I would argue, and I've said this before, that Spirits is the best aggro shield player in the world. I think when it comes to Blackbeard and Blitz, no one does it better. Shopify didn't think that was going to be an issue they needed to target in the bans. They said, we'll remove Deimos and Buck instead. Round 1, felt like that decision kind of came back to haunt them. We'll see if that keeps up.
I mean, DZ is just a runaway freight train at this point. They are a team that is banging on all cylinders. Everybody is playing their role so well. And I mean, the desk talked about how these players tend to dominate the top of the standings. So heading into today, by the way, let's see if we can find some updated stats. Heading into today, Citizen was the overall highest rated player, though he was tied with Rexon. Number 3 best rated player was technically Pambazoo, and he's tied with Ambi. Those are your top 4 players. Surf is right below him, and then about 4 rankings below, it's Spirits. Directly below him, NJR, and 2 below him is Nafe. That is bonkers. All 5 of these players are in the top 12 highest rated players. And I mean, when you are 7-0, that's to be expected. For at least 4 of them, Jesse, but not all 5. The fact that Nafe, who has historically had some struggles with his own rating, is providing such value shows that everything is clicking with this team.
Yeah, they look like a really well-oiled machine, and now as the second attack comes through onto the mid-floor, they've got a lot to deal with. Here comes Spoit up on the Azami, sees the Blackbeard once again. Can he find the head? It's a tough shot, but Spoit's known to hit those. Gonna face the other direction with that nade. He's gonna be forced out of the position, but still somehow alive. Ambi covering his teammate. Good work from the entry duo of Shopify.
Look at how well organized that was by DZ. They'd sent Pambazoo into the Isle of Danger. If it wasn't for Ambi there, that would have been a dead Spoit, and they would have had so much free access on the side of DZ to that part of the map. Canadian, the only casualty so far. He dies a bit too early for a smoke. He'll be without those Toxic Babes for the Execute, an Execute that will be weakened at the moment. Spirits, Nafe, and Citizen are the last 3 standing. Nafe holding on to the diffuser. Spirits will watch in that aggro role with the Blackbeard shield, as you talked about. But he's low HP. This is where a Toxic Babe would do so much work here, but look at the side of Shopify right now. They have no tools to deal with this. No C4s, no impacts, no gas canisters. They're just going to have to shoot away at Spirits.
It'll be a 2v2 top floor. Rexon and Surf up against Citizen and Spirits. DZ need to win this to enable a plant. You can't plant on this site if you don't have top floor control, especially versus Solus.
He's just fishing for something at this point. Excellent patience on the side of Shopify Rebellion right now. Surf hears the incoming approach of the Blackbeard. He has to walk away as out goes a nade. daring him in a duel. Spoit and Rexon on the board. Spirits was last one to be found, and Surf will get the final pick of the 3 to answer back. DZ looked indomitable in round number 1, while Shopify Rebellion were firmly in the driver's seat for round 2.
We've had some great games for the North America League, but this is clearly showing to take the cake. You can see how close together everybody's playing. There's no such thing as a big individual moment. It's not just one person playing by themselves. When something happens in this game, it is players working together. From the very beginning where you saw that entry trying to clear out Spoit, but Spoit had teammates, to kind of that late round where they're pushing in through the top floor. Yes, at the end, Spirits ended up being kind of solo, but that's because they had 2 players, so they had to hunt down and find. In the end, Shopify had the positioning, they had the numbers. That was going to be good enough. That teamwork, again, really shining in the early round so they could keep their players alive and have that 4v3 advantage.
I'm going to tech pause right now, but you can see it's clear night and day how well these two teams know this game. And there was much that was said about the hierarchy of North America before we played a single match. Internally amongst talent and externally as well on both social media and through queries that had been sent to the pros, it did look like there was a very obvious top of North America versus bottom of North America. You look at some of the teams that are in here, DZ and Shopify Rebellion were obviously 2 of the names that were on the tips of everybody's tongues. But then you also had the usual suspects. You had your OXG, you had your SSG, you had M80 included in that. And would you believe it or not, but those are the top 5 teams at the very moment. Wildcard obviously made a statement with their top 4 finish at Reload, but I think people were right to be a little bit hesitant regarding their capabilities. Then you had the other teams that were either unproven or were relatively new rosters or were dealing with organizational struggles, or in the case of Team Cruelty, coming from an entirely different league to compete up against stronger opponents. But there's actually been 3 tiers here in North America, Jesse. You've seen DZ and Shopify Rebellion very clearly a cut above the rest, and I'm not sure if people were quite expecting that.
Yeah, I think that these 2 teams being so far ahead was a big shock to players coming in to this season. I think it just comes down to how much time they've had to work as a unit, right? We had that off season after the 6th Invitational where players and teams had the chance to gel. They had the chance to figure out their roster, and then there was Reload as well. So it took a lot of time for the season to really start. Throughout Siege, it's often right after SI that teams go through these big rebuilds where they make up a couple of roster moves, and we saw that. Obviously, Spoit going to Shopify, that's a huge change. DZ picking up Spirits and Citizen, that's big changes. But now that there's a bit of a break after SI, teams get a lot more time to gel, to figure out what's working, what isn't with their rosters, and I think these 2 orgs in particular took that time to heart, and they really got good value out of it. Now we see them 1-1 to start things off as the tech pause has been solved and will go to the basement for the third round in the site rotation. This Mira setup has been popular recently, I'd say ever since SI and Reload, where you're playing 1 or 2 on the top floor. Your goal is to hold down Armory for as long as you can. You're trying to extend. It's a big map, so it's hard to roam across the entirety of it. But if you can just hold on to Armory, that's going to make pushing down through Filter into Office a lot more difficult. So this will be the goal from Shopify.
I'll look for DZ's pace to match what we saw out of the first 2 rounds. Even if they weren't as successful in the second round as they wanted to be, they still were more than quick enough, and certainly beating a lot of the DZ sluggishness that has been present through previous iterations of this team. DZ has always been an excellent team that has competed among the top of the world, though they just have that one major to show for it back in Charlotte. That's still more than most teams have. But the one criticism that DZ has carried for quite some time, a well-deserved criticism, I would argue, is their speed. They're quick to the punch this time too, though Nafe is the one who unfortunately loses that brief bit of pugilism. So the first kill comes in on the side of Shopify Rebellion. Look at the kills on the side of SR right now. Spoit and Ambi leading the way. Spoit's primed and ready with a Nitro Cell as we hit the halfway point of this round.
Goes out, doesn't find a mark though. The Toxic Babe doing more damage to Spirits. This Armory hold has become a huge issue for Darkzero. already losing one Nafe over towards range. They're looking to filter. It's a great crossfire. Even with all the smoke, it's still really awkward to find an angle. Another one, Spoit and Ambi each a piece. They are not slowing down, and with a huge man advantage, they can just drop. Doesn't get out if you're Spoit, but everybody else happy to rotate back to the bomb site. Nearly a perfect roam from Shopify Rebellion.
Spoit knew exactly what was going to happen there, which is why when he saw Pambazoo, he stepped back. He understood the DZ would work together. Pambazoo and NJR are usually tied at the hip when it comes to these final moments of a lot of rounds. I don't know if that will be the case here, though. Shopify Rebellion sit with 4 to the 2 of Darkzero, and Darkzero will have to get themselves out of a bad spot. Neither player from DZ hold the diffuser, so kills will be the name of the game unless that case can be retrieved. The job of finding these remaining players on the side of Shopify Rebellion will get easier thanks to the logic bomb used by NJR. Pambazoo now just hunting for it as best as he can. 4 drones remain on the side of DZ, but who knows what intel they're collecting. Right now, some aerial support from Pambazoo, but he has some difficulty fighting his way through the beams. NJR is punished by Canadian, who gets on the board, and Ambi gets the final kill to give the lead to Shopify Rebellion. Lair is an intriguing match, and these two teams match up so well that we've got quite the showdown, and I expect this one to go quite deep.
I want to see a High Bear video breaking down that roam from Shopify Rebellion where they played so perfectly, not just with a Spoit and Ambi locking things down inside of Armory and weapon as well, thanks to that mirror window, but the player top filter stairs as well. All the angles were covered. Even when Nafe on the ace was trying to counter that castle barricade, the reactions from Ambi were just too quick. I think through watching Shopify Rebellion this season, it's easy to get lost in how many crazy kills Rexon's been getting. Ambi as well has been really, really sharp. But that duo of Ambi and Spoit, it's a new duo this season, but those are the primary and secondary entries. Those guys playing together, I think, has been one of my favorite parts of watching Shopify this season. And it's not been the highest kill stage for Spoit. Obviously, he's a big player. Everybody loves to talk about Spoit. He's often top fragging the previous teams that he's been on. Not so much with this team, but I think the teamwork is really shining through in a way that I haven't really seen from him on previous teams. Maybe not since the Rogue days, to be honest.
That's a throwback. I was getting very cozy talking about these old teams. Rogue as an organization has such an intriguing history in our esport. They showed up when there really weren't that many big orgs, and I think Rogue was the very first shot fired outside of Brazil, because we forget that Brazil is in a bit of its own ecosystem. Like Font and BRK and Pain and all of that weren't huge organizations to the Rainbow Six folks, but I mean Pain in particular is a humongous org. Shortly after Rogue joined, picking up that vertical gaming roster that King George played on for quite some time. That's when we saw EG follow suit very quickly. And then you had Team Liquid and FaZe and all these other teams that started pouring in, and the esport has been in a significantly stronger spot since then. And then, of course, for most people, Rogue isn't even NA. Most people will think of that EU team with Spoit on it before it became Koi that won the Berlin Major.
That Berlin Major was the first event where Azami was legal. It's been, I would argue, one of Spoit's most primary operators.
Was she illegal before?
She was, because the stage before she was in the game, but she was quarantined because we had quarantines for a stage back then. So she wasn't legal the stage before, but in that one she was. So anyways, Spoit's played a lot of Azami through his career. Some of his best moments have come on Azami. And he's playing that operator once again over by Ops, which is where he played it in round number 1, although he didn't really find much of a contest because that just wasn't the direction DZ were pushing. It's going to be a very similar push for Darkzero. Canadian hoping to stay alive a little bit longer this time, though, as Spirits makes the same move he did previously.
Canadian likes to play on those support roles that are oh so integral to the teams. He cannot die early. It is just a bad look through and through. This time he'll be on Echo instead of the smoke that had died earlier on. Surf absorbing a bit of damage as these teams came to blows, and once again you saw Citizen have to get out of harm's way. Spirits has not moved out of his spot either. Worried that Darkzero might have hit a snag at the moment. Oh, they get better, Jesse. They've just lost Spirits.
Yeah, it keeps falling. Rexon racking them up now. Pamba falls next. They do answer with Surf, but still, Rexon's not leaving Cerber. He is happy to keep fighting from storage, I should say, where he's been finding these kills so far. Somebody on DZ needs to make a move, but now Shopify can just play passive and wait for these guys to walk in.
dangerous spot for DZ to be in. They lose Nafe, they lose NJR. It's all up to Citizen, who you saw was involved early on. Ambi rotates around and will find the second kill. And Shopify Rebellion doing quite well here. We briefly touched on the stats of Lair before the first round was played, and we talked about how much it's been played in comparison to other maps, but it's effectively a coin flip map. 48% of the rounds won by the attackers, 52 by the defenders. So anything is possible here. A 5-1 half is definitely doable based on those numbers. I guess 50-50 is what's most likely. But again, it depends on the operators that are banned. It depends on the teams and how they match up. If DZ is a team that has had struggles in the past attacking, then they might not excel until the side swap comes in. As for Shopify Rebellion, they look quite comfortable at the moment. After that first round that was well earned by DZ, the Rebellion have been in full control.
Yeah, it was good adaptation in that second defense, too, from the Rebellion on the top floor. Recognizing that Canadian being the first dead on the smoke inside of storage isn't really what you need, so let's just move him completely out of that position. Rexon can play there instead, and Rexon with a gun in his hand is going to be 10 times better than Canadian mid-throwing a Toxic Babe getting swung by a Blackbeard. So it's a little bit more aggressive from Shopify, right? They're saying we're willing to take more of these gunfights early, even up against the Blackbeard that we knew was going to be coming in from Spirits. But it was a good answer. Very similar push from Darkzero on both rounds. Maybe not anticipating that Shopify Rebellion would be able to counter it quite as well as they did, but quite a strong effort. And now we'll head right back down to that main floor where Citizen will actually pick up the Blackbeard, just so that Spirits can play his other favorite operator of the game.
Well, look at that. Spoit back on Azami yet again. And escaping the bans, Smoke taken out by Darkzero really is an interesting one, and we'll have some reverberations. That explained why Canadian was on the Echo as we talked in the previous round. If you're going to run any types of shields and you're worried about being a bit sluggish, Smoke is the perfect operator to punish these teams. Legion, when paired with Smoke, can be a very deadly 1-2 punch, so don't need to worry about it. On the side of DZ, his Legion is absent. Nave with his hand up looking like a conductor as he tries to orchestrate and execute on the side of Darkzero. And only thing right now is that there's no real symphony being played. It's more just a lot of noise as DZ tears through the defenses laid out by Shopify Rebellion.
Canadian aggressive coming in with the Ellis shotgun. Playing inside the Skybridge hallway. Oh, with the pistol, too. It's just a Blackbeard on the other side of it, so he doesn't have to be too worried. Pamba does, though, as Spoit now finds the angle, playing the same position he played last time. Good coverage still from his teammates. The Kivas are so strong. Finally shut down by Citizen on the BB, but I think Spoit's done his damage. Happy to waste so much time and kills.
And around the corner now with the shotgun in hand, Canadian and Citizen will do battle. Down goes Surf, and all the advantage that was had by Shopify Rebellion has completely evaporated at this point. A 3v3 with Spoit and Surf in the ground. But again, all 10 of these players in the lobby, a threat in some capacity, 9 of them when it comes to having weapons in their hands. You still got Rexon and Ambi on the board on the side of Shopify Rebellion. They can do some serious damage. But DZ now back to their slower ways as they suss out what they can do with the remaining players and utility they have.
They're all focused on site. Nobody's going up above. It's going to be a 1v3 versus Ambi, which he loses.
Ambi's pounced upon. And now it's Spirits with Diffuser at the halfway point. Rexon and Canadian repositioning, but neither of them any the wiser. They let DZ walk in. They let them take the site. And now, unfortunately for Shopify Rebellion fans, it's going to be a mighty obstacle on the side of DZ for them to overcome this. Canadian now will attempt his best, but he attacks Spirits, who's on the ground with a shotgun in hand. And the round goes in favor of DZ as they close the gap to 1.
Rare misplay by Canadian, the oldest and most experienced player in the North America League. While that push was coming in from Darkzero, Canadian thought there were going to be players top floor pressuring, because usually there are on that bomb site, right? Usually you've got 1 or 2 players pressuring the top floor. So Canadian was jumping out the display window, trying to catch somebody, trying to find somebody that was watching over by that angle. But what he should have been doing was holding the vert angles, because every single player on DZ went down below. I think that's really good from Darkzero to recognize that situation too. They had smokes to enable that plant. They had the Blackbeard to cover for the plant if they wanted to. They knew that they killed the Solus, so that threat of being denied from up above, even in the smoke, wasn't quite as strong. those two players on Shopify, they were meant to be locking down the top floor. They got so concerned with what pressure might be coming towards them, what players might be pressuring them, they just didn't even think so that all three players might be focusing the bomb site, leaving Ambi completely helpless. That was really smart by Darkzero and just not a good read by SR.
Both of these teams are so evenly matched that there are going to be rounds that come down to inches. And one small maneuver going one way or the other, and that is going to be it. Ambi, for example, flinched. He looked in the wrong direction for a second as he heard the advance of two separate players on DZ. Just as there have been issues with target prioritization before, it's going to afflict everybody in a certain way. Ambi is a terrific player who has leveled up since there were some leadership and coaching changes on the side of Shopify Rebellion, and now it's safe to say he's meeting his potential, but even he is going to make mistakes. And a team like DZ, they are going to punish you 9 times out of 10 when you make the smallest misstep. And really, there isn't much that separates these teams in terms of round differential, in terms of stats, in terms of pedigree so far in the NA League. So if you're making a tiny mistake, all of your opponents are eager to exploit that.
They're really focused on Armory, and that's where the big pressure was from Shopify last time. But now Ambi is lurking top floor with the Boss G. Spoit up there as well from Armory, finds Pamba, which was a vert angle. This could be really big now with Shopify holding even more of the map than previously they were showing. Darkzero are really focused on Armory on range, and I'm not sure if they know that there's a Boss G lurking up in Skybridge. In 2025 of all times, they'll recognize that there's no Miro window, so they know it's a bit of a different push, and maybe recognizing that there are a lot of roamers say, screw it, let's just go hit the site.
Pambazoo down obviously is not ideal, but now DZ will look to avenge him, not Citizen though, as he maybe tries a bit too hard, and Shopify Rebellion hasn't lost a single point of HP. They're on the verge of a flawless round now, Jesse. It's just a tiny bit over a minute to go. Spoit has finally dealt damage, but that's all DZ has at the moment.
Surf is the only player that was on the bottom floor. Ambi has joined him now, but didn't seem to matter. Shopify from up above, we're finding really good value. Nate finally gets a pick, planting just in front of the doorway in from lockers. Let's see if he can get this down. It looks like he will. Post-plant engage for Darkzero.
And there was a Goyo canister right across from him too, but there was no line of sight from Shopify Rebellion to punish him. So now they find themselves, their backs against the walls. 2 players on the side of DZ, keeping all 4 at Shopify at bay. And now Nafe and Spirits will simply look over top of it. Their Spirits take down Ambi. He's only good enough for a single kill, so now Nafe needs to go bigger than he has so far in this entire game. He, too, is afflicted with the same thing that Ambi had in the previous round. Canadian shotguns him away and hops on the defuse kit. And that'll be the first half in the books. Shopify Rebellion take it 4-2, and they'll swap sides.
Competitive half, though, you got to say, for Darkzero in that previous round. I don't hate the decision to rush into the basement. They were correct on the read that it was only Surf all by himself. Very similar to the read they made in round 5, right? There's one guy on site. Everybody else is above. Let's just go rush site with everything that we've got. This time, though, I think the vert angles were a little bit better. Surf did get one for his troubles inside the site as the lone anchor. And then I believe it was up top. It was Spoit that got some vertical angles, managed to take down NJR in the midst of that push, leading into the 2v5, which was pretty much unwinnable for Darkzero at that point. So good attempt. I think the post plant would have been their best chance, and they got it done there. But end of the day, not quite enough. We'll get straight into the operator bans for the second half. Should be Kaid Bandit coming out on this side. Generally, the idea with Lair is you either ban Bandit Kaid, or you leave both of them up and you take out a Clash plus something else. Shopify decided to take the electricity route. They ban out both Bandit Kaid. Darkzero took the other route, taking out Clash and then 2 other operators. So a bit of a different philosophy. Both are quite popular in the current meta.
Strong operators, and I mean, this is something that internally we've talked about with the EU lads over on their desk about how Bandit and Kaid so very rarely escape ban phases that they might as well not even be in the game most of the time. It is a bit unfortunate. They're strong operators, but still good to see. But there is fluidity when it comes to these bans, and teams get rid of the things that provide the largest headaches. In this instance, on a big map like Lair, you want to get rid of Kaid for those hatches and for those walls from afar. From Bandit, it's just because dealing with those Bandit batteries, as always, are a huge nuisance. You know they're going to be on the board. It kind of traps you in if you're an attacker. You have to bring either EMPs or some type of soft destruction to shoot away at the floor or the ceiling or what have you. Easier to, instead of problem solve by having to bring an IQ or a Thatcher or a Dokkaebi with pocket EMPs or whomever you want to bring, you just simply say, let's get rid of them. And that's exactly what Shopify has done. It will likely make their attack easier. Shopify on the other side will be without a Grim and a Glaz on their attack, as those were the operators that Darkzero removed.
Yeah, historically, teams ban almost permanently just shields for the attacker team. Yep. Neither of these squads wanting to remove shields, which is really interesting. Might show that this game is a bit higher level than some of the other games that get played, even within the pro circuit. It's just what happens when you get the best of the best. Things start looking a little bit weird when you get to the operator bans and such. Tachanka obviously left on the board. Usually NJR's favorite operator. It's his most played so far in the NA League, but Spirit's taking control of it this time. I guess a little bit too bold to pick Caveira up against this opponent, but who knows? Could always see it going forward. This is going to be an explosive push from Shopify. They've got Ambi with Diffuse Kit on Amaru. They've got the Finka boost as well. The Sens Wall from Spoit. He's not popping it yet. This is just a bait. It's not the push yet. Ambi's going to rush up that hatch when he can. That hatch right there. Thank you, Observer. So that he can get the plant down. The exact same time, all that $10 from Surf, all of the stims coming in from Rexon, all of that flash from Canadian are going to make so much chaos.
And they're prepped and ready to deal with Surf. As you can see a shotgun get ever closer. That was Citizen wearing the Jinxie bundle, in case anybody hasn't seen that. Yes, Jinxie has his own skin in the game now. Almost like Black Ice, but in pink. It's quite nice. Ambi off to the races, and with the Supernova out, clears his way by dropping Pambazoo. Canadian outdueled by Spirits on that Tachanka. Ambi still in a really tight place, but he's got a rodeo of his own. Give him the cowboy hat, Jesse, because he's the one that's holding court at the moment. Shopify Rebellion now in a 4v2, and Ambi will hop on that Diffuse Kit. All 9 kills, and now an objective to his name. Heavily guarded now as NJR and Spirits are the only 2 players remaining for Darkzero. Shopify wanting desperately to vault to first overall. Picking up a single point by getting to 6 rounds would be quite the way to start it. And they're looking at round number 5 right now. Darkzero needs 4 kills to get out of this alive, but right now they are suffering through far too much damage and taking way too long. Rexon with a single pick, and now it's NJR trying to jiggle peek, but he gets swept up from behind, and Shopify Rebellion take their first round on the second half.
If you're gonna do it in style. Ambi up the hatch, shotgun out, 2 huge picks. I think he forgot he had the diffuser for a moment there. He was just looking for more kills with the shotgun. Might have been Canadian who said, Ambi, go plant. We gotta get this down. Regardless, the space was made. The play caught them completely off guard. Such a creative push coming out from Shopify Rebellion. That's been the real difference maker this game. Feels like every round they're bringing out something new, something flashy. They're holding nothing back. It might not be playoffs yet, but they are treating this like it is one of the most important games that they have played. And that's because it really is means so much to them with how much pride is on the line. Really cool strat from Shopify. That's one we're going to have to see broken down from a top-down POV at some point.
While Darkzero seemingly met their match at the current point in time, they have not been slowed down by any team that they have had to do battle with. Again, if you did not tune in to the pre-show before we got this match started, DZ has avoided overtime in every single one of their matches. Look at their results so far. Day number 1, OXG. OXG got 4 rounds. LFO got 3 rounds. M80 got 2 rounds against them. C9, 3 rounds against them. Wildcard, 4 rounds against them. Envy, 3 rounds against them. Cruelty, 3 rounds against them. No team has done more than 4 rounds against DZ. Shopify has now broken that by getting a 5th round. And the other thing, too, is that Shopify are the closest to victory against DZ that we've seen up to this point. DZ are capable of bleeding. Both of these teams are. They rightfully are the top 2 teams in the NA League. But at this present point in time, unless things change, Shopify Rebellion are on track to not just win the match, but take over first overall in the region.
Canadian on the Monty, trying to lock this down, push it to match point. A lot of pressure top floor, a lot of good droning so far as well, where they're spotting out that utility. We saw Nafe in a cheeky position down to the first floor, maybe going to react if there's ever any hard breach being thrown at the main bunk's wall, but I haven't seen any yet. Pambazoo, what is this? Amonte's about to sprint through that window. You got to get out of here. There goes the Gersmalt mine, and he's out of town.
Down goes Spoit, opening pick for Darkzero, something they've not really succeeded at on DZ's side, so it will be very welcomed by their fans as they now sit in a more powerful position, lording over what remains of Shopify Rebellion. And the big thing about Rebellion is that they only got one logic bomb off. That really powerful nuisance op of Dokkaebi will not be able to do much more than that. Pambazoo wanted to fight against Surf. He'll get it. Surf, though, walks away quite wounded from the engagement. There's a nitro cell on the board. There's 3 gas canisters on the board. Oh my goodness. Surf could easily die to any of them. Ambi dies in the hands of Spirits, who now pushes up to the Monty of Canadian. That leaves Rexon and Surf as the escorts. DZ are in a great spot for the final 50 seconds.
Looking for the feet of Canadian. He's exposed himself, but it's through the hatch that Spirits falls. Rexon down below equalizes the man count. 40 seconds to make this happen. Top floor held by DZ, but NJR gives it up, so it's just Citizen up top. Still players from Shopify pressuring there as well, but they will start to make the rotate over to the bomb site as Canadians looking for a plant.
They'll extend the shield yet again. A very crucial round for Darkzero. Numbers have evened. Shopify Rebellion will look to try to ride this one out. Canadian does not seem to be aware of Citizen's position. Citizen is an excellent player at finding those exploits, getting into positions that you don't expect him in. Now it's Rexon to try to do battle with him, dropped by NJR, and NJR will find the final 2 to prevent Shopify Rebellion from getting that 6th and critical round. DZ would have to pull off quite the comeback, but for a team of their caliber, it's definitely doable. The gap between the two is now 2 rounds. Still great for Shopify Rebellion, but they're still just a little bit too far for comfort, I wager.
Canadian just can't get a read on this Bunk's bomb site, man. On the defense, he was expecting players up top when they were all below. And again, on the attack, he's playing the Monty. He's staring at the ceiling. He's like, surely somebody's going to try to stop my plant from up above. Every player from Darkzero had rotated back down to the main floor. Canadian didn't realize it, so while he's looking up at the sky, his back is exposed to the door to Green Hall. And that's when Citizen goes for his swing, managed to take down the captain. If Troy had just walked in the breach, held F, I think they win that one. There wasn't great plant denial on the side of Darkzero. There was one Toxic Babe from Citizen, which maybe could have stalled it out. It really would have been close on the timer there. But even still, that's got to be a better option for you than trying to get on deep. It just wasn't a good read, unfortunately, and that will be Darkzero on their first defense.
Far from over. These two teams with undefeated records will witness one of them lose today. They cannot draw, though there was a period of time where draws were possible. It was years and years ago, if you remember, Jesse. I don't even know if you were casting at that time, actually.
I think I was watching. I wasn't casting.
That's okay.
I was probably casting GoForce at the time.
Yeah, we've all been there. It's a rite of passage for wannabe casters and those who wanted to start to climb the ranks to do GoForce. I mean, I did GoForce before getting called up to my professional debut. There's nothing unglamorous about it. It's a necessary part of the job, and it's a great way to show off your skills. These two teams will be in action tomorrow on our final day of the group stages. They've both clinched a spot in the playoffs, so at this current point in time, they're just playing for standings and for them to be undefeated still. Shopify Rebellion will be in our second match of the day up against M80. They've also qualified for the playoffs. DZ will cap off the final match of our group stages up against another playoff team of Space Station Gaming. So both of these teams will have decently tough adversaries tomorrow, but neither will have to do battle against a team as tough as their current opponent. Halfway point of the round, Shopify Rebellion still cutting their way through these reinforcements to try to get ever closer to the DZ defense.
Darkzero had a good number of roamers at the start of this round, but once they realized that most of the push was just coming in through Garage, they dropped a lot of their players back. Now it's just Pamba lurking around the top floor, currently in medical. Ambi's up above, Rexon's here on the main floor too. Shopify have some players pressuring up above, but most of their push is going to come linearly through the basement, through Missile, through Locker. That's going to be the big point of contest. There will be 2 separate fights going on during this push. It'll be Pamba dueling with these top floor players of Ambi and Rexon, and it'll be the site players as well. Pamba might get aggressive early though, which will put him in a great position to stop the plant.
E1D will freeze things in place as we just hit below the 1 minute mark. DZ striking first yet again. Nafe will get traded out shortly thereafter by a nade, hucked by Surf, and now it's Spirits in a perilously dangerous position. Reduced to a single point of HP, but with the sidearm takes Rexon down first. Now it's NJR getting softened up after Spirits had been punished by Spoit. These two teams back and forth. Left hook, right hook. Surf taking down Citizen. NJR still very low on HP, but he's fighting away. Sidearm out, and Surf will learn that the hard way. 9 kills in the hands of Ambi. 9 kills in the hands of Spoit. A 10th now had for Ambi, but that's all she wrote. An opportunity for Spoit to break double digits. But first, the objective. Pambazoo heading back to the bomb site. Spoit should have all the time in the world to pull this off. He does so, and he hears the door open. Pambazoo versus Spoit in a 1v1, and the Pamba party will begin as DZ wins the round. Phenomenal stuff. As Spoit and Pambazoo colliding is one hell of a show, but this time, it's Pambazoo with the better aim.
One major MVP takes down another in the 1v1. Brilliant play by Pambazoo. I told you before that push, there was going to be 2 separate fights going on. It was going to be Pamba versus the Roamers up above the site, or the Roam clearers, I should say. And then it was going to be the Execute going on in the site. Darkzero won the gunfights up above. That was solely Pamba, who managed to control the top floor of that map. And then just barely, Shopify were able to edge things out down in the basement, left it to that 1v1, Spoit versus Pamba, 2 of the most mechanically talented players in the entire world going at it. And with Pamba coming out on top, this game creeps closer and closer to an even scoreline, 5-4. It was 5-2 not that long ago, Parker. Between these two teams, nothing is certain, and it should be no surprise that they are going to bring this as close as they can.
I expect overtime between the two, so we will see if we actually make it there. It is, I know that I'm not a predictions guy. But I would not be shocked to see this go all the way, at least with you look at the way that the teams match up and with these players playing up to the standings that they have and up to the standards that they've set for themselves. Well, overtime would be a nice little treat.
10 seconds remaining.
This isn't our final match of the day, by the way. If you're tuning in for our match of the month, which I think you could call it, there is still one more game to be played, and it does have pretty strong playoff implications. M80, a team I mentioned that will be playing up against Shopify Rebellion tomorrow, have already clinched their spot, but they want to ensure they remain towards the top of the standings. They started the day in 3rd. They have slipped down, but through no fault of their own. It's just because the other matches that have been played. They will be going up against LFO in our final match of the day. If LFO wins that game and gets all 3 points, they will jump back to that 6th and final playoff spot and be in an excellent position to hang on to make it to the playoffs. And not to downplay the abilities of the LFO Orgless players, but making playoffs was something that did not necessarily seem possible at the start of this stage, especially when their organization pulled out unexpectedly days before the league was to begin. That'd be quite the Cinderella story, wouldn't it, Jesse?
Certainly would. They've had a real season of improvement, I would argue, over on Orgless. It's been great to see. Still not quite the level of these two teams, though. Darkzero and Shopify, our main event of the day, playing here on the top floor once more. We saw Spoit earlier engaging with Keepa barriers and operations. Not so fun being on the other side of it, is it, Spoit? Ambi down below and one of his favorite operators, one of the best Deimos players that we have here in North America. If he can find the Clash, that would be massive. They can get a ping on the Clash with that drone there. And playing Clash when there's a Deimos tracking you from down below is an absolute nightmare. That's why NJR is going to have to stick on that mute jammer. Don't expect him to wander too far from that, because as long as he's sitting on it, Ambi will not be able to track it.
Up come the shields. Flash on the side of DZ, Monty on the side of Shopify Rebellion, in the hands of Canadian at this point, who picked up 2 of his 3 kills in the first half and has been more focused on helping the rest of the team succeed on attack. There has not been as much success for Shopify Rebellion on the attacking side of this map. Again, Lair is a very close to 50-50 map, so anything is possible just based on those numbers. Right now, it sure looks like 4-2 on both sides is most likely. Canadian has found safe harbor, by the way, and he's just going to truck right through that gas. It's thrown a bit belated by Darkzero. Nafe gets on the board, but Diffuser is down, and with 9 players still alive, now it's incumbent upon DZ to get to the case in the next 30 seconds. Down below, Shopify Rebellion prep the case. That was Ambi with the sidearm out on the demo. Still 1 death mark in pocket for him. Meanwhile, everybody from DZ is still alive, and at the current point in time, they're not able to get to the bomb as quickly as they want, neither to the case. They look like they were going to hop on it for a second. Spoit has been downed amidst the fury, but we're about to run out of time. There's no way. They're past it. Surf sweeps through 2. There were 8 people still alive when the diffuser was at 8 seconds, and almost half of the lobby lives as the clock ends. My goodness. DZ didn't want to overcomplicate things or overextend, and it ended up biting them as they were too slow to get to the case. And a 6th round will be had for Shopify Rebellion as they pick up a single point and now sit on match point.
When Nafe died on the disable, there were still 7 players alive, which was after the 7-second mark. So at the time that the round was technically over, at the time where it became unwinnable for Darkzero, 7 players were either up or in a downed but not out state. Ridiculous round coming from these 2 teams, and probably the first big blunder that we've seen from either squad. Darkzero not quick enough with those toxic babes. It should have been obvious where the push was coming from Shopify. They had a clash staring at that push as it was coming down, but the reaction not quite out from Darkzero. The other players on the map not able to respond to that either. When DZ were attacking, we saw Skybridge push after Skybridge after Skybridge. That was the only part of the map that they wanted to focus on. Shopify flipped the script a little bit. They go over towards Ops, and they show just how powerful that can be. If you can get through the Azami, if you can open up the wall, you really do put yourself in a strong position. They got that extra safe plant spot that's just inside the mask wall, which has pushed them up to match point. Darkzero now will have to win back-to-back just to force the overtime. Darkzero have never in team history lost a match on Lair. They've admittedly only played it 3 times, and those games were against D+, Kia, Fnatic, and Oxygen. But still would be hoping to keep that streak going, even against a team as tough as Shopify.
It's a rather ridiculous round that we just witnessed, but we've casted an awful lot of Rainbow Six Siege in our lives. I mean, I've casted just about everything there is, and I think I've seen most of it, if not all of it. But that round was something special. It is very rare that we see such calamity inside the server on such a tight window of time. Kudos to Shopify Rebellion for pulling that off, and a valiant effort by Darkzero to deal with a situation where, yeah, they had all 5 players still alive, but you have no control over the bomb site. You don't really have an idea of where it's happening, and you don't know what your next move is going to be. You act too quickly, too brash. You get picked apart by Shopify Rebellion's setup. You lose the round. You go too slow. You run out of time, which is clearly what happened. So it's a really challenging spot to be in. Win or lose, I would have loved to have heard how Nafe would deal with a situation like that. Still an opportunity for DZ to get that winner's interview, but they'll have to do it through overtime now, as Shopify Rebellion have secured 6 rounds, and with it 1 point, which will now tie them in first. It'll come down to round differential as to who sits on top, which right now, by numbers, DZ still hangs on to a favorable round differential, which gives them first. But if Shopify grabs all 3 points, they will have sole control over the top of the scoreboard.
A tense round, 60 seconds remaining and still 10 alive. This is how Rebellion like to play it sometimes. As soon as Canadian chucks out these smokes, that's going to prompt a push as they come into the top floor. They have players up above to try to pressure, but really this is going to be all about, can Canadian get the kit down?
He's going to do it again. There's no way they allow him to pull it off. No, DZ has figured this out, and NJR will pull out the Soulless. Down goes Canadian. Rexon had died moments before. Spoit the first one on the board for Shopify Rebellion. That diffuser's been surrendered, and this is where it's going to get real challenging. They need to pick it up. Nave slaughtering Spoit. It's Ambi and Surf as the last two alive. It was a similar situation for DZ. They had made a small change, and that's NJR was very well positioned to tackle that diffuse kit going down. Now the remaining players from Shopify Rebellion will wander in one by one and get picked away. DZ learning from their mistake in the previous round. They will not repeat it again. They pick up yet another round, and we're going to go to round 12 of regulation.
Textbook Soulless play coming out from NJR. Sometimes a player who gets pigeonholed into these, smoke, hard breach roles, and he plays those very well. But when he needs to flex around to different operators, he can absolutely do it. And just didn't see a whole lot of pressure from the Rebellion up on that top floor. I think they were supposed to have Rexon up above that was supposed to be pressuring those players to deny that top-down denial, but in the end, Pamba got the opening pick onto Rexon, and so that was halfway through the kit going down. Canadian with the fuse kit was the second person to die, so Darkzero never really allowed an opening for Shopify Rebellion to apply pressure or make space up on that top floor, and then planting in the smoke against the Soul is just not a recipe for success. So couple of strategies. Shopify Rebellion trying to sneak one past DZ to end the game. I think they're going to have to go for a bit of a stronger execute than what we just saw there.
10 seconds to insertion.
Round number 12 might just have it in spades. It's going to be a basement bomb site once again, and it looks to be a decently heavy roam game with Armory heavily contested by Darkzero.
Locate a bomb and defuse it. A bomb has been located.
Huge map. Great roam presence from Darkzero, and if Shopify Rebellion tries to do what they've done before, which is get into the site and go for a defuse quickly for the third round in a row, it might come back to haunt them. Only one shield being brought by Shopify Rebellion, and it's on the Blackbeard. Ambi has a read now on Citizen, who for but a second appeared on screen. This is going to be a tough fight. There's a drone position to give intel to Ambi, whose patience he's hoping will be rewarded, but you can't spend the entire round just sitting there waiting. Sometimes you need to make things happen. In this instance, Ambi is waiting for a mistake to be committed. Citizen is giving him nothing. All the while, Rexon. Extreme Home Makeover Edition on that mid-floor of Lair.
Yeah, and as Ambi holds from outside the map, it kind of gives Rexon that freedom to move around and start causing some chaos. Might have been able to bait some movement out of Citizen too. This looks very similar to the last time we saw Shopify attacking on this bomb site. It's once again a two-player combo. Rexon and Ambi on the top floor doing their best to open up the floorboards and make some noise, have some chaos, while the brunt of the push from Shopify Rebellion comes into the basement. Last time, DZ won this round thanks to Pamba top floor being able to win those fights. He will still survive, but he won't have Citizen alongside him, as Ambi did eventually find that angle he'd been holding the entire previous 90 seconds.
A devastating position for DZ to be in, but they will have an answer back as Rexon on that floor gets blown up by a C4 and numbers go back to even. Rexon has not made as much noise this game as he usually does, but everybody across the board is pitching in on the side of Shopify Rebellion. Now Pambazu needs to be wary of where they will come from. He had a good idea on the one read. Now he'll have to tussle with Ambi before hiding. A Claymore had taken out Spirits as there was a bit of ambition on the side of Darkzero. Pambazu's good for one, but Canadian reads him like a book. Advantage swings back in favor of Shopify Rebellion. One player on the side of SR will have to retrieve that case. The rest, if the drones are available, they have to figure out where NJR and Nafe are before they can pull off this execute.
That was the double Claymore in the drone hole that we saw getting placed up earlier, so that's a big brain play to be able to get the man advantage. Toxic Babes, one gets used, but then NJR goes down. It's Nafe in a 1v3 to save the game.
And it won't happen, Jesse. Shopify Rebellion will slaughter DZ on Lair. Oh, to be a fly on the Shopify wall as Canadian blows up like a volcano. First place goes to the Rebellion as they hand DZ their first loss of the stage.
Canadian remains undefeated up against his former team. This just seems to be the squad that DZ cannot get a handle on, and you know how much it means. Currently, the best team in North America, Shopify Rebellion.
In indisputable fact, they will take first overall of the standings. There's still a chance they could drop it. It's not set in stone. Shopify Rebellion will do battle against M80 tomorrow, DZ against Space Station, but for a team that hadn't even gone to OT, a regulation loss for Darkzero will be a bitter pill to swallow. A huge game from the Rebellion as they take first in the NA League. We'll be back in a few minutes.
I'm smoked off. Smoke that,
Yeah, yo, last one towards Neon. Last one towards Neon.
I'm coming
Yeah,
to go.
Neon with it on the hard wall.
Let the shield fired.
Fuck you! You dropped me! You dropped me! Let's go! Fucking choke of a team!
Hey guys,
Let's go! Fucking got 12-0, you fucking dog shit motherfucker! Let's go!
There is just nothing like that. I mean, we're just sitting here laughing. Troy being
Troy. Troy being Troy.
Troy being Troy. Clearly a chip on his shoulder and, well, delivering a swift victory. We'll bring in Rexon to talk a little bit more about that victory. We talked to you yesterday, my friend. Congrats again on yet another win. Now officially the first place team in the NAL. You told us after your win against Cloud9 that this was exactly what was going to happen, that you would win against Darkzero. What is it about your team that is so consistently better than Darkzero?
The players.
Well, Darkzero is a good team, obviously. Like, this is the match everyone wanted towards the end of the season. But it really comes down to not only work ethic, but again, like player for player. Like, whether it be me, Pamba, NJ and Ambi. Like, player to player, we are better in every margin. So, like, they could be good, but we're better players, and that's really all there is to it.
Great. I mean, well, you definitely showed it today, and obviously you don't got to worry about that tweet coming out. So that was, one thing not to worry about. And another thing I wanted to know, if you guys were worried at all, was obviously going to Lair. We know how Spirits likes to get on the shields and how he likes to be able to be creative on the stairs while the team is taking from the opposite direction, so to say. Was there ever any worries about those players specifically? Or I'm assuming you guys had a game plan. Maybe talk to us about what that game plan was to shut down Spirit specifically on the front end, the rest of the team on the back end.
Well, the game plan going into it was just like, this team is typically pretty slow unless they have like a coordinated rush. So wherever Spirits is going is where the push is going to be. So obviously, he's on a shield most of the time. Wherever the shield is, fight that and hold the zone. You don't give it up. You don't fall back. Just fight and contest the entire time. Pull it down to a 3v3 and then play the round out. But that's pretty much what we did. Like with DZ, it's you got ban on Deimos, like Deimos tracking, and then Spirits will sit with the shield, and then Pamba kind of runs in. The other two guys are on cuts or lurking. So that was our game plan going into it, was just contest them. They're really slow, so just play crosses and trade with the boys.
Well, Rexon, obviously, congratulations. You guys are sitting at first. I don't think it's locked in just yet. I think there is still a chance that you maybe can fall out of that, but still, a really good performance. I really more so want to give you guys a compliment. I talked about going into this map. I was curious if you guys were going to ban out the Blitz, ban out the Ying, especially off of Spirits like we were talking about, but you guys went for the Deimos. You went for the Buck to alleviate that vertical pressure. And one thing that I really appreciated, you were talking about, knowing where Spirits was going to be with that shield, that spearhead. You guys were using the Echo very effectively to stop that spearhead of Spirits trying to make that threshold, trying to get into the site. Like, again, I just want to give you guys tons of props and credit to just alleviate that pressure and really just eliminating Spirits' X factor of just being able to get into the building and, again, being that spearhead.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, Spirits, Spirits is a good player, and he plays like the stuff that I don't like, the annoying stuff, whether it be the Ying or the shields, like the Vigil Bashti. He's kind of the one that pioneered that. But pretty much I think you give the guy the respect he deserves, ban out some of his stuff and then let him play the shield, because you can't get rid of everything. So get rid of what makes you uncomfortable. I said, the Bug, the Deimos, and then fight the shield head on. Because as you said, we have Echo, we have Elo, we have Smoke, we have things utilized to kill this guy. And so even though shields are really, really strong, if you have a crossfire or play numbers into them, that guy still can't shoot you. He has to close the gap on you. And so that was pretty much
I'm assuming the Deimos and the Buck was essentially to just have more comfortability in the site so you don't have to worry about it, so you can have more of a hard focus on shutting that shield down, having the crossfire set up there.
Well, yeah, if you have the verticality in play, and then like with the Deimos, they're just gonna go they'll have their cuts go below, rip the floor up. Yeah. They're gonna get rid of these like storage, for example. Like when we're fighting in storage against the Blitz, they had no Buck, they had no Deimos. Like they can't really do much there. So if we just stand our ground and fight them, play the trades, you have to kill them with pre-fire or you have a trade, and that was the goal, and that's what we did, and it worked very well, as you saw. Like whether it be the LMI, the Echo. But if they had the Deimos to Buck, for example, rip the floor up, then you lose like a power spot. Now they have the Z control, they can rip the wall open, they have ops, then they start pinching you out. But if you can prevent that, which is what we did, then pretty successful.
I gotta say one thing. Round 7, when Ambi went up the hatch with Amaru, I don't know if you could see his POV or see the situation he was in. I'm sure he was screaming because he was just playing it so well. If you could just relay to Ambi that was such an impressive round from him to keep his composure and stay within that round and give you guys that pressure into the site to go for the plant. It was a masterclass performance from Ambi.
Yeah, I mean, again, as I said, just with the players, right? Like that's, he's a rookie, he came in here, about a year now, Yeah. He's gotten a lot of experience. He's really good. I mean, he's a good kid, has big B's, and he's really keeping his composure, especially in spots like that, because some spots he plays are that spot player, or he's just always in the middle of everything. So I know he's going up a hatch, just flashbangs, Tachanka fire, sense wall, and I see his silhouette just spinning around, killing people.
That's literally what was going on. It was insane to watch. You should go back and see it from his point of view. We captured it, and it was honestly impressive.
That is amazing. Yeah, I botched a nade, so I'm really glad that was not caught.
Thank you so much, Rexon. Lots of insight as always. A big win, and yeah, now it's tomorrow and playoffs. #1 team. Congrats, man. It's been a hell of a stage, and we will see you down the line.
Thank you. You guys have a good day.
All right, see you, Rexon. What a match. I mean, this one was back and forth the entire way. We hyped it up, and deservedly so, it delivered.
Again, I mean, there's really nothing you can pick apart negatively from both these teams. Like Jesse said, the one round that you could say that one team blundered was that execute where they couldn't get the diffuser. It was 8 players still alive, I believe, with 8 seconds left in the round. It really just came down to Darkzero just getting too flustered and maybe playing a little too safe, where Shopify ended up playing it perfectly. But again, both teams were doing such a good job at countering, where then they immediately understand that Shopify wanted to go for that rush, so they brought the Solus to alleviate that rush. But again, talking about the Echo to stop the shield play, it was just a well-rounded match where we saw SSG versus M80 was nothing but aggression. This game was a constant back and forth in terms of adaptation and bringing it to the other.
No, absolutely. It definitely was a chess match, and I think the operator bans, finally we got to see them, the new bans edition, really be limit tested essentially, because we didn't just see shields, we didn't just see the basics. Going for the Deimos and the Buck forced DZ to have to bring something new to the arsenal. We saw them trying to respond to it. They brought the Ram. They were trying to bring different ways to accomplish the same goal, but it just didn't work out the same way. And obviously, both ways, both teams were adapting constantly to play back and forth. Shopify Rebellion just did a really great job at shutting it out. Their preparation going into it from both teams was amazing. Shopify Rebellion obviously was just very confident in understanding, hey, we're the one team that can look at Darkzero and understand how we can break them apart, because no other team has been able to say, let's attack Spirits head on and get rid of characters that would just enable Spirits, instead of just trying to deny Spirits directly.
Well, this was as near perfect a performance from both teams as you could have imagined, and a perfect playoff preview for next week. We're going to close out the day with another good one. As always, some playoff implications on the line. M80 and Orglis. Orglis with a chance to deny some Cloud9 hopes. We'll see if they can do it against M80. We'll bring you that next.